What you're about to hear sounds impossible. A hurricane passes, the storm clears, the sun returns, and then 3 days later the ground itself begins to flood, not from rain, not from rivers, from beneath the earth. This is the story of what happened in Manchester, Jamaica, and the terrifying underground secret that scientists have been warning about for decades. Hurricane Melissa had moved on. The winds had died. The clouds had scattered. People in the community of expected the usual cleanup, cutting branches, sweeping mud, maybe fixing a few damaged roofs. What they didn't expect was to wake up and find their yards transforming into a lake. Slowly, steadily, with water rising from the soil itself. Picture this. You step outside your home. The storm ended days ago, but the water level in your yard is higher than it was yesterday, and it's still rising. You call your neighbors. They're seeing the same thing. Trucks arrive with industrial pumps. The hoses churn for hours, pulling thousands of gallons out of the ground. When the pumping stops, everyone gathers to check the water level. It hasn't dropped, not even a centimeter. The water is coming from somewhere endless, somewhere deep, somewhere no one can see. This is not a story about surface flooding. This is about something far more unsettling, something that reveals just how little we understand about the ground beneath our feet. And Manchester is sitting right on top of one of nature's most dangerous hidden systems. Let me take you back to the beginning. The first footage captured by residents shows an eerie calm. Cars are parked along the roadside as if people have gathered for a community event. Small groups stand near the water's edge, whispering, confused, trying to make sense of what they're seeing. Even church members, still dressed in their Sabbath clothes, white shirts, long skirts, polished shoes, stop on their way home to stare. No one rushes off. They stand frozen, watching a piece of familiar land turn into something unrecognizable. At first glance, you might think it's just leftover rainwater from Melissa. Jamaica has weathered dozens of hurricanes. Pooling water is nothing new, but something about this water is different. It's too still, too calm, too deep. It sits there like a pond that has existed in that exact spot for years, not days. And that's when residents begin to share something chilling. This water has been here for days. They've tried everything. Pumps ran for hours with zero effect. The water doesn't drain. It doesn't move. It just sits, deep and patient, as if it's waiting. That observation unlocks the first terrifying clue. This isn't surface water left behind by the storm. This is water being continuously replenished from below, from deep underground, from a place where water shouldn't be rising at all. Now, to understand what's really happening here, you need to know what Manchester is built on. Beneath the streets, homes, churches, and farmland of Manchester lies a massive foundation of limestone. And limestone is one of the most porous, absorbent, and easily carved rocks on the entire planet. When rain falls on limestone, it doesn't just run off the way it does on clay or granite. It sinks in. Over thousands of years, water has eaten away at Manchester's limestone, carving tunnels, massive caves, deep cavities, narrow channels, and sinkholes. Scientists call this Karst topography, and it creates a hidden world completely invisible from the surface. Imagine this. Beneath Manchester, stretching for miles in every direction, is a vast underground plumbing system, a network of rivers, caverns, and passages that most people never think about. Under normal circumstances, this system works beautifully. Rainwater flows through these channels, travels quietly beneath people's feet, and eventually makes its way toward lower ground. In fact, this underground network is one of the reasons Manchester's aquifers have supplied towns like Manville with clean drinking water for generations. The system is natural, efficient, and completely invisible until it's not. Limestone systems are incredibly delicate. If water enters too quickly, if channels become blocked, or if the ground becomes oversaturated, everything changes. And that's exactly what made Hurricane Melissa so catastrophically dangerous. The storm brought an enormous volume of rainfall in a very short period, Manchester's underground world soaked it up at first. The limestone did its job, but the rain kept coming, hour after hour, day after day. The aquifer was pushed far beyond its normal capacity. Eventually, every underground cavity filled, every hidden river swelled, every cave, crack, and pocket reached maximum capacity. And when that happens, the water doesn't politely wait for a way out. Pressure builds. The water begins to force its way upward. The same ground that normally absorbs water suddenly begins to release it. And that's when hydrologists from the Water Resources Authority observed something extraordinary, something that sent shockwaves through the scientific community. Groundwater levels in parts of Manchester rose almost 100 meters within just a few weeks. 100 meters. That's the height of a 30-story building, rising from deep underground. In weeks. That kind of rise is the hydrological equivalent of a ticking bomb. Slow, relentless, and impossible to stop once it starts. When groundwater rises that fast, it doesn't just sit quietly beneath the surface. It pushes, it seeps, it climbs. It finds its way through cracks people never noticed, through gaps in foundations, along sinkholes that are centuries old, and sometimes straight through the floors of homes. Residents living close to the flooded areas began hearing strange sounds in the early mornings. Dripping, rushing, gurgling. Water appeared at back doors. It seeped under verandas. It crept through kitchens. For some families, the water climbed so quickly they had only minutes to gather children, pets, and important documents before evacuating. Homes built on the lowest sections of land suffered the worst. In some places, the water rose so high that only roof peaks and the tops of windows remained visible. Entire yards were swallowed in complete silence. No waves, no currents, just a still, glassy body of water covering everything. Now here's what makes this even more disturbing. This has happened before. Manchester residents with long memories remember 2002, 2003, and 2005. Communities like Newmarket, New River, Porus, and Harmons experienced nearly identical events. Floods that didn't come from rivers or gullies. They came from beneath the earth. Sinkholes filled more than 100 feet deep. Roads vanished overnight. People used makeshift rafts to travel between houses. Some communities waited months, before the water finally drained back into the underground systems. But here's the question scientists are now asking. Why is this happening more frequently? And are humans making it worse? Before we go deeper into that question, I need to ask you something. If you're finding this story as fascinating and unsettling as I am, do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button right now. We're on a mission to reach 20,000 subscribers, and your support helps us bring you more stories like this, stories that uncover the hidden forces shaping our world. And drop a comment below. Tell me, have you ever experienced groundwater flooding, or have you heard stories like this from your community? I read every single comment, and I want to hear from you. All right, let's get back to the mystery unfolding beneath Manchester. What makes this type of flooding so uniquely dangerous is that it can last far, far longer than regular surface floods. When a river overflows, the water drains relatively quickly once the rain stops. But rising groundwater, that's a different story entirely. Scientists believe the same chain reaction is unfolding again in Manchester. Heavy rainfall saturates the limestone. Underground channels fill beyond capacity, and the excess water forces its way upward. But now, there's a growing and deeply concerning conversation around the idea that human development might be amplifying the problem. When people build houses over old sinkholes, clear forests, or pave areas that used to absorb water, they unintentionally choke off natural drainage routes. Limestone landscapes rely on these natural holes, cracks, and depressions to move water. Block them, and the entire underground system becomes more fragile, more vulnerable, more prone to catastrophic failure. Even highways, when placed in the wrong locations, can redirect water and interfere with drainage paths that have existed for centuries. long before humans arrived. Around the world, engineers have documented similar problems in limestone regions. When natural sinkholes are filled, or when development covers the land with concrete and asphalt, groundwater has fewer places to escape. During storms, the pressure builds and builds until the water erupts upward, sometimes violently. That's why Manchester's flooding cannot be solved with traditional solutions like widening culverts or digging bigger drains. Those solutions work in parishes where water flows above ground. But Manchester's water crisis begins below, in a hidden world we can't see and can't easily control. The footage captured by residents shows them trying every method they know to manage the situation. Some dig channels by hand, hoping to direct the floodwater towards sinkholes that might relieve the underground pressure. And the water rushes through these newly dug trenches with surprising, almost frightening speed. That speed is proof that the underground system is still massively overflowing. Without these improvised channels, carved out with shovels and sheer determination, the flood would have spread much farther, swallowing more homes, displacing more families. But stagnant groundwater brings another sinister layer of danger. When water sits for weeks, mosquitoes thrive. They breed rapidly. And the Ministry of Health monitors these situations very closely because outbreaks of mosquito-borne illnesses, dengue, chikungunya, can follow rising groundwater events. With families displaced and homes surrounded by stagnant, still water, vector control becomes absolutely critical. This isn't just a water problem anymore. It's a public health crisis waiting to happen. Despite everything, despite the crisis unfolding around them, life continues. The footage captures a funeral procession passing carefully through the area, cars navigating between standing water and parked vehicles. Even in the middle of disaster, Jamaicans continue their rituals, their obligations, their responsibilities. People still mourn. They still worship. They still cook, work, and take care of children, even when the world around them has changed overnight. Scenes like this remind us that disasters don't pause everyday life. People don't get to press pause. They adapt. They survive. They push forward. As you watch the calm, mirror-like surface of the floodwater in that footage, it becomes crystal clear. The real story here isn't the water itself. The real story is the hidden landscape below Manchester. A landscape shaped by centuries of rainfall, carved into a complex maze of underground passages, and pushed beyond its absolute limit by Hurricane Melissa. What happened in content is a rare and unsettling reminder that nature's most powerful forces often operate where we cannot see them, in the dark, in the deep, far beneath our feet. To truly understand why Manchester reacts this way, we need to step deeper into the world of limestone geology. Because the story unfolding in content isn't just a local oddity. It's part of a global pattern seen in regions built on karst terrain from China to Mexico, from Slovenia to Florida. The word karst describes landscapes where the bedrock, usually limestone, has been shaped by water over millennia until it resembles a natural maze. Underground rivers twist and turn through the rock. Caverns open into wide, cathedral-like chambers. Narrow channels branch like veins through the earth. In some places, these channels run for miles, silently transporting water from hills to valleys without anyone on the surface ever noticing. This hidden world is what controls Manchester's water, until a storm like Melissa overwhelms it completely. Karst landscapes can store enormous, almost unimaginable amounts of water. They act like underground reservoirs without walls, absorbing rainfall faster than most soils. But they also release water in complex, unpredictable ways that depend entirely on the shape and condition of the underground network. When all the cavities are full, the system behaves like a bottle turned completely upside down. Once it's filled to the brim, pressure builds rapidly, and the water shoots upward wherever it finds an opening. The same natural pathways that quietly accept water on normal days become the routes where water erupts during extreme weather. That's exactly what happened after Hurricane Melissa. The aquifer reached maximum capacity and began to rise through the same cracks and channels it once used to drain. But here's the real challenge. These channels are ancient. They formed over thousands, sometimes millions of years, long before towns, roads, and housing developments appeared. Nature carved them according to its own logic, not according to modern land planning or human convenience, which means people often build on ground that behaves completely differently from what they expect. A piece of land may look perfectly solid on the surface, firm, stable, safe, but beneath it may lie a sinkhole that last opened 50 years ago, or a buried chamber that fills whenever rainfall hits a certain threshold. In a normal year, nothing happens. Everything seems fine. But when a storm like Melissa arrives, nature remembers those old pathways, and it sends water rushing through them once again, with devastating force. This is why engineers face such immense difficulty predicting or preventing the kind of rising groundwater seen in content. Traditional infrastructure focuses almost entirely on managing surface water, drains, gullies, embankments. But in Manchester's limestone country, the real drama, the real danger happens below. You cannot widen a gully to release water that's coming from beneath you. You cannot build a higher embankment to stop water that rises from the soil itself. You need an entirely different approach, one that begins with understanding the geological history of the area, the hidden history written in rock and water. When you talk to elders who grew up in Manchester, people who have lived on this land for 60, 70, 80 years, they speak with quiet authority about places that were once sinkholes or seasonal ponds. Long before scientific reports, long before hydrologists arrived with their instruments and maps, these elders learned from memory. They remember where water used to rise, where old channels once stood, where the land tended to shift after heavy rains. Their stories, passed down through generations, match exactly what scientists now confirm through advanced geological mapping. Places like New Market, Harmons, New River, and sections of Porous have repeated, documented patterns of rising groundwater after major storms. These places sit along major underground drainage routes, making them far more vulnerable during aquifer overload. And now, content joins that list. A new name added to a growing map of risk. One of the most important and troubling questions asked after the Melissa flood is this: why did the water stay so long? Surface floods from rivers or gullies often disappear within days once the rain stops, but rising groundwater can linger for weeks, even months. The reason lies in the agonizingly slow nature of underground drainage. When the aquifer is filled to the very top, it doesn't empty quickly. It drains gradually, seeping through narrow passages that act like bottlenecks restricting flow. If the channels are partially blocked by natural debris, collapsed rock, or sediment carried by the storm itself, the process slows even more dramatically. This means residents can be forced to live with the flood, to watch it sit there day after day, long after the storm has faded from the news cycle. Long after the rest of the country has moved on. The psychological toll of that, the helplessness, the waiting, is something most people never consider. Now, the idea that land development affects this process isn't far-fetched. It's not speculation. In karst regions across the entire world, even small alterations to the landscape can disrupt natural drainage in catastrophic ways. When a sinkhole is filled to create space for construction, water loses one of its escape routes. When vegetation is removed, the soil absorbs less water, forcing more into the underground system all at once. When roads block natural depressions, the flow pattern that existed for centuries is suddenly altered. These changes may seem insignificant in normal weather, but during a storm, they contribute directly to overload, to failure, to disaster. While scientists are still studying the exact role development played in Manchester's flood, experience from other countries shows clearly that human activity often magnifies natural vulnerabilities. We don't create the problem. But we make it worse. We turn a manageable risk into a catastrophe. The footage of residents digging trenches by hand shows something powerful. It shows how communities respond when formal infrastructure isn't enough, when the government can't help fast enough, when survival depends on action. These trenches are more than simple channels dug in desperation. They're attempts to reconnect the surface with natural sinkholes, giving water a pathway back into the underground system where it belongs. The speed at which water rushes through these hand-dug trenches tells a clear and frightening story. The pressure beneath the surface was immense. Without those makeshift channels, carved out with shovels and raw determination, the water would have spread deeper into the community, adding more families to the growing list of displaced residents. Of course, when you have standing water, another danger quietly grows in the background. Mosquitoes breed rapidly in still water, and they don't care about human suffering. They thrive in it. The Ministry of Health understands this risk intimately and treats the area with extreme caution. After storms, diseases like dengue and chikungunya can surge if water remains too long. And because rising groundwater can stay for weeks, the risk becomes exponentially higher. Vector control isn't a luxury in these situations. It's a shield protecting already stressed communities from another wave of suffering. When people are already dealing with loss of property, disruption of daily life, and the overwhelming pressure of temporary displacement, the last thing they need is a disease outbreak tearing through their families. As the days pass and the water remains, the footage transitions into scenes that capture the deeply human side of the crisis. You see quiet moments where residents simply stand and watch the water, trying to understand how it rose from soil they once trusted, soil they walked on, soil they built their homes on. You see families carrying belongings to higher ground, item by item, trip by trip. You see that funeral procession weaving carefully between parked cars, determined to maintain dignity and normalcy despite the disruption pressing in from all sides. These moments remind us that behind every natural disaster, behind every scientific explanation and geological map, there are real people. People who must continue their routines, their lives, their grief, even when disaster sits outside their front doors. And that brings us to the deeper, unavoidable lesson from this event. Manchester's vulnerability is not a mystery. It's not bad luck. It's geography. It's geology. It's the unavoidable reality of what the parish is built on. Manchester sits on limestone. Its rivers are underground. Its drainage system is ancient, invisible, and operates by rules that most people never consider. And its behavior during extreme weather is shaped by forces that science is only beginning to fully understand. This reality demands a completely different type of planning. Engineers cannot treat Manchester the way they treat parishes built on clay or granite. The solutions used in Portland or St. Andrew will not work here. They can't work here. Manchester requires detailed geological maps that identify underground channels, sinkholes, and vulnerable zones. It requires land use planning that respects those natural roots instead of blocking them. It requires education for communities so they understand which areas are safer for building and which are high risk during extreme rainfall. And it requires investment, serious investment, in monitoring systems that can track groundwater levels in real time, giving communities advance warning before the water rises. And here's the part that should concern everyone. Climate change adds another layer of urgency to this equation. Storms like Melissa, intense storms that dump massive amounts of rain in short periods, may become more frequent. That means groundwater events like the one in content will likely occur more often. If communities don't prepare now, if the government doesn't act now, the impact will increase with every new storm. The land will not change its nature. The underground channels will not rewrite themselves to suit human convenience. It's humans who must adjust. It's humans who must learn to live with the land, not against it. But this story is not without hope. It's important to say that. Jamaica has a long, proven history of resilience. Communities rebuild after hurricanes, after landslides, after droughts. Manchester has rebuilt before, and it will rebuild again. But this time, this event offers a rare chance to approach the land with deeper understanding, with respect, with the knowledge that ignoring geology comes with consequences. The rising water in content was not a random accident. It was not an act of God in the sense of something unpredictable and unknowable. It was a reminder of how limestone landscapes behave. It was a sign, written in water and stone, that the underground world beneath Manchester must be respected, studied, and included in every conversation about infrastructure, development, and community safety. The calm surface of the water in the final frames of that footage carries a quiet but powerful message. It tells us that the most powerful forces shaping our environment are often the ones we cannot see. It tells us that the land remembers old pathways even when we forget them, even when we pave over them and build on top of them. And it reminds us that nature doesn't always reveal its plans in the sky, in the clouds, in the wind. Sometimes the real story, the real danger, lies beneath our feet. Silent, patient, waiting. This is more than a flood. It's a lesson in geology, engineering, and the critical importance of living in harmony with the land instead of trying to dominate it. It's a reminder that understanding nature's hidden systems is the first step toward protecting our communities, our families, our future. And it's a warning that ignoring those systems, filling in sinkholes, blocking drainage paths, building without understanding what lies below, will come back to haunt us. The people of content, Manchester, are living that reality right now. And the question we all need to ask is this: will we learn from their experience, or will we wait until the water rises beneath our own feet?